What are some dumb purchases you made? A shitty mall katana, while I was on a date, no less. It was a first date. There was not a second. Edit, since many of you are requesting details, here goes. This was close to 20 years ago. I was 19. I had just moved into a new apartment, and thought mounting a katana on the wall would look mature and cool. It never made it up on the wall in any place I ever lived. I eventually sold it at a garage sale. Got $20 for it. The date wasn't going terribly up to that point, but it was also clear we weren't destined for a second date. I've never owned a fedora, and thought I grew out of my nice guy/neckbeard tendencies by 10th grade. Maybe it was a last gasp attempt for those traits to manifest themselves. I hope she remembers it, preferably with a laugh. I certainly remember it. I have 3 boys, and they will definitely hear about it as a cautionary tale. I've bought a lot of how-to kits and books. Like how to knit, how to calligraphy, how to paint, how to write poetry, etc. Have I learned how to do a single one of those things? No, I have not. Same, but rather than books I bought a Raspberry Pi, Arduino, Photoshop, all other Adobe stuff, game capture, a green screen, a puzzle, a book to write a script. You get the idea. I buy stuff with a plan in mind but never start any of it. I'm just proud I remember to water my cactus. I traded a rather rare volume into a local used bookstore because I had 2 of them. Then went back to the bookstore a month later and excitedly bought my own book back because it was rare and I didn't think I owned it. I was wrong. I like to think the same employee that received it from you also sold it to you and was profoundly confused. Had a crush on a guy I barely knew who told someone else who told me that this guy was into dominant women. A few days later I dropped nearly $600 on bondage gear, an entire strap-on setup and what I imagined to be dominatrix outfits. Everything arrived in the mail by a couple weeks later. I tried on everything, looked all manner of ridiculous and suddenly realized I had never planned beyond that point. I couldn't come up with any non-mortifying way to try to let this guy know that I was prepared to dominate him. Like, I couldn't even decide if it would be less ridiculous to pretend I had always had all this stuff and been into such things, or to admit I bought everything on the off chance that a near stranger I was infatuated with might be down for it. In the end I gave it all away to an elderly gay couple on Craigslist. That was my $600 value charity donation for the year. Wasn't even tax deductible. $400 fish tank lighting. I wasn't carpenter enough to build the hood to mount it. It sits in the basement as a monument of my idiocy. My dad is really big on putting extra lights on anything that will sit still long enough to have lights installed. When he first became a cop, he spent $800 on extra lights for his squad car. As in addition to the lights that come standard on every police car in America. I really cannot underscore how many extra lights this is. He's a reserve cop now, so he doesn't have his own car, so there's $800 worth of police lights in a box in my parents' basement. I commissioned an artist to paint a portrait of my then-girlfriend's dying pet rat. She told me her rat was about to die in a month before I got it. By the time it was ready, the relationship had ended and I didn't know what to do with it. I paid $90 for it and it was absolutely worth the price. Artist did an amazing job, I just didn't have anyone to give it to now. I ended up giving it to her anyway. I regret doing that since I probably just made her feel guilty. Thing is, I was fully aware we were about to break up. I just liked her so much and I was totally alone in a new state. I didn't think I was good enough to earn her love, so I tried to buy it. Real dumb. Honestly, if it meant something to her, it wasn't dumb. Those claw covers for cats to stop them from scratching up your furniture. They were ripped off the next day. He was gnawing at his little feet until everyone was gone. I've trained my cat to not scratch furniture by placing a sturdy scratch pole close to the furniture he would scratch. Every morning when he is eager for breakfast I made him scratch the post before putting down the food. I've done some basic dog training before, but so far I've gathered that cats only respond to positive enforcement. I kept encouraging him with treats if he would scratch the post during the day, and I've never had any issues since. When I was 7, I saved up for a 1-foot, high porcelain Dalmatian from a department store. My pocket money was £1 per week, the dog cost £27. My mother still has it at her house. It's the kind of thing a 70-year-old would buy. I have no fucking idea what was going on in my head. Edit, I think it was ceramic, not specifically porcelain. Maybe as tall as 18 inches. I was obsessed with getting it, and I never had buyer remorse. It's also so completely out of character. When I was in first grade, we got school bucks for good behavior and we could buy things with them at the school store once a week. One of those things was a ceramic bunny, and when it was my turn to buy something, I raced over to get that bunny so no one else would get it first. No one else was going for that bunny. After I thought about it, I was like, WTF am I so worried about? Anyway, the reason I wanted it so much was to give it to my mom as a gift, and she kept it for ages. $75 in plants only to let them die because I forgot about them. There should be like an SPCA for plants. You know, some place you can guiltlessly drop off your mangy neglected plant, and after a week of it sitting sadly on display, it gets taken out back and gassed. There's something similar at stores like Home Depot that gardeners call death row. It's the bargain rack of near-dead plants that are dollar store priced. Take them home and treat them right, and they come back to life in no time. When I was high off pain meds after my ACL surgery, I was on Amazon and saw a typewriter that I really wanted. Order it, and it was a picture of a typewriter on a notebook. I'm still mad about that, lol. Everything just seems like a great idea when you feel like you're floating. It was Percocet and Oxy. It was $12, so I didn't really care about returning it, and honestly, it's a funny reminder that I like to have around. My family still brings it up to tease me about it, but it is funny, so I can't blame them. I went on a first date with the girl that I liked. We live in New Jersey and it was July, so obviously I took her to the boardwalk. While we were there I saw a vendor selling hermit crabs, and my dumbass thought it'd be funny to buy them as a joke and try to impress her. I then realized after spending $30 on 2 crabs, 2 because one would get lonely, that I needed a proper setup. So we went to PetSmart and got a tank, food, sand, and a log for them to play on. Long story short, I spent over $100 on hermit crabs and supplies. Not to mention that the girl completely friend-zoned me, which is okay because now I have my 2 crabs, pickles and yogurt to keep me company. Well, now you have a story about getting crabs on a first date. An ex broke up with me. She was the first person I dated and didn't really know how to navigate the breakup, so I bought her a really thoughtful gift for her birthday a month later. What a waste of money and time looking back on it. There's a lot of things I'd regret more than a gift for someone else. She obviously mattered at some point. My first pack of cigarettes. Smoked for years and it's been 5 or so years since my last. The lack of phlegm alone is worth it, not to mention the money. Looks nervously at all the games on Steam/GOG that I've bought but haven't played ever. The alcohol stove I've bought recently didn't work as well as I had anticipated. When I was in middle school I thought it would look cool if I had a ton of games on Steam, so I spent hundreds of dollars on random games that I only played for a few hours at most. My first time in Germany, I was only there for a few months, so I thought I don't need a barn card, I'm not here for a full year. Then I spent well over €1,000 on train tickets. The whole time I could have been saving 50% and collecting loyalty points. Bruh, there's so many better ways to approach this. Monthly tickets, half-year tickets, the barn card itself and many other options lol. This kills me every time I remember it, and it's honestly made me into the extreme money saver I am today. When I was younger, my family visited Niagara Falls. I had $50, which is a lot for a kid with no job, and was excited to buy some souvenirs. I spent it all on keychains. I only got like 6 of them, which made it to $50. They were all of the same place, too. It's not like they were from different cities. I wasted all the money I owned on freaking keychains. Who even uses those? It haunts me to this day. Bought a onesie for my Great Dane. Don't know why I bought it, but I think he liked it. So I have this cat that's constantly dressed up in stupid shit, and I know that people judge me for it, but in reality I figured one day that maybe he was constantly biting and scratching me because he was cold. Turns out I was right, and if he doesn't have a sweater on he just goes right back to being an asshole. All in all, I would say you made the right choice, and now I no longer judge anyone with any animal in any sort of ridiculous attire, because I would rather have someone think I'm a crazy cat lady than be covered in scratches and bite marks.